The lobster was still steaming when I heard her say it. Not to me. Of course not. She was 2 tables over, clinking a glass of white wine with people who'd never pronounced my last name correctly. The company dinner had barely made it past the second course, and already my appetite had curled up and died somewhere under the linen napkin on my lap. I wasn't supposed to be seated this far. They ran out of space at her table. That's what Celeste told me with a shrug, like it wasn't a choice. Like I hadn't been placed in the overflow section with the spouses who were just there for the free food and polite applause. I had just lifted my fork when I heard her voice, louder than it needed to be, the tone she uses when she wants to be overheard. Honestly, I don't even know why I married him. He was my biggest mistake. We all have one, right? There was laughter. The fake kind. The kind that people do when they're not sure if it's okay to laugh, but they do it anyway because silence would be worse. My fork never made it to my mouth. I just sat there staring at the lobster tail like it had personally betrayed me. My palms started sweating. The room suddenly felt like it had narrowed, as if the chandeliers were leaning in to listen. She didn't know I was close enough to hear. That part was clear. I was the husband she filed under safe, the man she expected to sit quietly and pretend to not notice things. But I noticed. I noticed how she leaned into the man beside her, the same one she said was just funny and new to the team. I noticed how she didn't wear the necklace I gave her for our anniversary. I noticed how she hadn't looked at me all night, not once. I didn't storm out. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even blink. I just sat there with my hands in my lap while the butter congealed and the world shifted. 1 hour. That's how long it took. 1 hour from the moment she dropped that line like a wine stain on a white tablecloth to the moment her entire evening came undone. And I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even finish my drink. All I did was stand up, and everything changed. The thing that stuck with me most wasn't what she said. It was how easily she laughed after saying it. Like there was no weight in those words. Like I was a pothole in her timeline. Something she could joke about in a dimly lit ballroom with people who barely knew me. I sat in that cheap upholstered chair with my hands folded in my lap, staring blankly at the flickering candle between me and some bored accountant's wife who kept scrolling her phone under the tablecloth. I heard the clinking of glasses, the dull hum of fake compliments being exchanged, and in the middle of it all, her. Celeste always knew how to own a room. She didn't just enter a space, she occupied it. She was radiant in that silver dress, the one she bought on sale last month, though she never tells me how much the card bill actually comes to. I watched her from my corner of irrelevance, watched the way her hand brushed the arm of the guy next to her, the way her head tilted just a little too far when she laughed. I wanted to believe I was imagining it. I wanted to chalk it up to a few too many drinks or workplace camaraderie. But deep down, I knew. She wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she hadn't been for a while. It's strange how fast humiliation can settle into your bloodstream. I wasn't angry, at least not yet. I felt embarrassed. Small. Like I was the only one in the room who hadn't gotten the memo. I thought about leaving, just quietly sliding out before dessert and calling an Uber, but something made me stay. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe it was something uglier, that hollow need to see it through, even if it meant watching her pretend I didn't matter. I got up and walked toward the balcony. Not to make a scene, just to breathe. The air outside was cool, not cold, and the city looked like something painted on glass. I leaned on the railing and wondered how many other people had stood right there, realizing their lives weren't what they thought they were. There was a potted plant beside me with cigarette butts tucked deep in the soil. Someone had stubbed out the truth in there, and suddenly I felt like doing the same. About 10 minutes passed before I saw her silhouette approaching through the glass. She didn't notice me, too focused on her reflection in the dark window. She reapplied her lipstick, checked her teeth, adjusted the neckline of her dress. I stayed in the shadows, just watching. That's when he followed her out, the man in the maroon suit. I still didn't know his name, and somehow that made it worse. He stood beside her, too close. She smiled again, and that smile, that damn smile. It wasn't meant for me anymore. It was light, effortless, and real. I hadn't seen her smile like that in years. And that broke something in me. Not with a bang, more like a thread being pulled from a sweater. Silent. Slow. Permanent. They didn't kiss. Nothing dramatic happened. But the way they stood there, bodies tilted, voices lowered, it was intimate in a way that made me feel like I'd already been erased. And maybe I had. I turned away before they saw me. Walked slowly back through the ballroom. Past strangers who'd eaten more of the expensive dinner than I had. Past centerpieces and dessert trays and servers collecting plates I never touched. I reached our table and sat down. No one noticed I'd been gone. The accountant's wife was still scrolling. The music had changed. Celeste came back about 10 minutes later, her cheeks slightly flushed. She kissed me on the forehead, the way you'd kiss a child, and asked, "You okay?" I nodded, said I had a bit of a headache. She smiled politely. "Want to go?" "Not yet," I told her. "Let's stay for dessert." Because what she didn't know, what no one at that table knew, was that something had shifted in me. A decision had formed. Quiet, clean, and final. If I was her biggest mistake, she was about to find out what it felt like to lose something you never thought you'd have to miss. I sat there as the dessert was brought out. A miniature forest of chocolate mousse, vanilla tuile, and some gold-dusted nonsense that probably cost more than my entire week's lunches. Celeste was scrolling through photos on her phone, laughing with the coworker next to her, probably showing off some filtered snapshots from their team-building trip the week before. She hadn't asked me to go, of course. Said it was employees only. I believed her. Back then, I poked at the mousse with my spoon, but didn't taste a thing. My mind was elsewhere. It had shifted into this strange, detached state, like I was watching the evening play out from behind a one-way mirror. The humiliation still burned inside me, but now it was changing shape. It wasn't self-pity anymore. It was calculation. And something colder. I remembered a detail. A small one, but it clicked into place like a gear engaging in an old clock. Earlier that evening, Celeste had left her phone face up on the table while she fetched wine. A notification had popped up. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Marcel clinking glasses and a preview of a message that read, "You look incredible. I'm trying not to stare too much tonight." When she came back, she flipped the phone over without even glancing at it. Like it was muscle memory. Like she knew exactly what she was hiding. I had no proof, no confrontation, no smoking gun. But I had something else. I had her words, burned into my brain. He was my biggest mistake. And now, I had a plan. The company's CEO, some overconfident tech guy in a velvet bow tie, clinked his glass and called for a few words to mark the end of the fiscal year or whatever celebration justified this grotesque display. A few department heads spoke. Celeste actually went up for a moment too, introducing the marketing team with a voice like champagne, bubbly and hollow. She was thriving, smiling, soaking up the polite applause. I applauded too, just enough to keep up appearances. Then the mic passed to our table. The MC made a joke. "Any spouses here want to say something?" "Marvin, right?" He grinned in my direction. Celeste let out a forced little laugh and waved it off, but the mic was already in someone's hand, being passed to me. I didn't stand up. I didn't clear my throat. I just took the mic and turned slightly in my chair. And then I began. "I wasn't planning on speaking tonight," I said, voice even, maybe too even. But I figured, hey, why not?